Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So, there's been a lot of stuff kind of popping up with the whole, election thing. I know I talked about the machines a bit ago. I think, when we look at the timeline, let's kind of focus on the timeline for a bit. We look at the timeline of everything leading up to the election. You had Trump saying that he might delay the election so that we can curb the spread or whatever. People are talking about mail-in ballots and just sending out mass mail-in ballots, and it'll be fine and secure and everything. You had various advertisements on YouTube like, your mail-in ballot is secure, you can track it, and this, that, and the other. Leading up to elections, you had, what else was there? Oh, let's see, you had the delays, the mail-in ballots, you had people saying mail-in ballots, mass mail-in ballots are going to be a large vector for fraud. You had people, states and all, talking about removing signature and verification requirements from mail-in absentee ballots. You had states talk about sending mail-in ballots unsolicited rather than having voters request them. And then you also had social media like Facebook talking about how the vote count could take a month or two and take a while, and it's completely normal, and it would be normal. It's okay. So you had Mark Zuckerberg talking about how, they would push that. It's normal for it to take a while, and everything else, for the count and all to take a while. Okay? And then you lead up to election night. You had the counts come in, you had you had absentee and mail-in ballots already brought in. Many of them. Most of them, I believe, were already in. They were supposed to have been in. You had various states that said, we'll just extend the mail-in ballot period for a few more days and extend the election period for a few more days. You had a couple state courts say that. Which, by the way, legislating from the bench is not what courts are supposed to do. Oh, you had various last-minute changes to voting procedures in different states. You had different last-minute updates to voting machines. But then on the night, once the time was shut off, you had the count starting. You had accusations of poll watchers being pushed out and not allowed in. You had the pipe burst fiasco, which sent poll watchers home and away for a little bit. And then there was suddenly a count during that time period of more votes. You had, I can't remember which state it was, that sent poll watchers home and said they would continue counting at 9 in the morning. But then during that time period, there were more votes counted without poll watchers. You had the Bristol board fiasco, where windows were being covered up, where counters were being watched, and so now they're covering that up. You had various coolers and whatnot brought in without being checked by security. I'm just stating things as kind of how they came. I'm not, trying to push any conclusions or anything as of yet. let's see. Oh, and then you have post within a day, they called it for Biden. Everybody's like, Biden won, Biden won, Biden won. Everybody's been calling it for like the last month, so they had called it within a week, and they stated it like it was final and everything else. Oh, you have... Now you have the VP and various execs from Dominion Voting talking about their security and everything else. I've kind of talked about that in the past, the security of voting machines. So I won't cover that. And then later on, they go into hiding. There's various... Well, they kind of go off the map. They don't go into hiding necessarily, but they kind of like get out of the light. So they're not in the light anymore. Oh, you've got... What was it? Oh, and then you've got the linking of various of these voting officials with various political candidates and their affiliations, associations, and all with them. So, make of that what you will. And then you've got... What is it? You've got hereistheevidence.com, which is basically a crowdsourced compilation of various anomalies in this year's election. So if you look at all of the anomalies that have happened, I mean, you get one anomaly, it's like, okay, yeah. So we can, like, all the anomalies, even in official state reportings, it's like, okay, one anomaly, that's one thing, we can kind of look into it. Two anomalies, okay, but we've got, we've got a number of anomalies here that are just, like, kind of fishy, and everybody's basically calling it. After investigating someone for 3 years and wasting tax dollars to find nothing, all of a sudden people don't want to investigate something, and they're calling it a waste of money. So, you're saying that the people's vote matters, but when one thing gets investigated, that's when it matters. But when another thing, people want to investigate another thing, that's when it doesn't matter. It's when you've got these number of anomalies, it's like, okay, if it were just one, maybe. But we've got multiple of these anomalies that have never happened in history. So, riddle me that one. How that is not worthy to be investigated, and how that's going to be a waste of resources. But, beyond that, I think the biggest thing is the fact that when we look at how things were primed before the election happened, people being told, hey, it's going to take a while to figure out who actually won. And really, they're right. It's going to take a while to figure out who actually won. Because we're barely hitting into December, and the Electoral College votes on the 14th. And people are already calling for Biden. The news, you can see it all over YouTube, is already saying Biden transition going smooth. It's like, the Electoral College hasn't even gotten together yet. and you're sitting here doing this. And what's this crap about the office of the president-elect? Like, when was this office created? What's going on here? There was, I don't remember there ever being a office of the president-elect. Find me where it is, please, okay? Second of all, he's already forming a cabinet. Like, Biden transition going smooth, daily presidential briefings with Biden going smoothly. It's like, the Electoral College still hasn't voted, and yet you're telling me that he's getting these daily presidential briefings now. You're, like, pushing out the current president before the process is even finished. Yes, the process takes a while, but the fact that, they're already skipping the process when they said, like, oh, it's gonna take a while, is, like, beyond me. And, also YouTube fact-checking, the AP is called the presidential election for Joe Biden. It's like, first of all, the Associated Press doesn't call elections. Second of all, the news media doesn't call elections. Third of all, we still haven't finished the process. There's still more of the process to go through. The Electoral College hasn't voted. State certifications are... Many state certifications are still being investigated and worked on. Some states were pushed to certify early, even though in the last time, they waited until the last minute to certify. Some election certifying board members were threatened to certify. So, there's something wrong here. These go beyond anomalies. We had the patience to wait and double check that Trump was duly elected last year and still had a full investigation with Russia. But we have to ram everything through like a cock in a hole right now. Riddle me that. People have not let the process play out. And we're still waiting on the rest of the process. And there's a lot of process that we could still go through. People have talked about the 2000 Bush versus Gore, that election. Oh, Al Gore didn't concede for 32 days. So he was well into December without conceding. And then, what was it? Then there are other processes in history that are that people would say, oh, this part is unprecedented. It's like, no, there were backups and things put in the Constitution, and everybody's ignoring those. So let the process play out, and stop ramming it through. Because there are people on these certifying boards that are like, something's wrong here. No, we don't want to do this. Let's wait on a full thing over here and over here and over here. And it's like, okay. Whereas other people are over here like, no, we can't allow that. You have to do this. It's like, oh. But yeah, I mean, when you've got whole protests that are larger than football events during normal seasons, something's up. Anyway, yeah. So, let the process play out. Support my process by, buying the merch. And yeah, vote for me. Vote for my system. and help me add more rewards to Subscribe Star and more perks and stuff.